Is high national debt dangerous for America? What is national debt? The national debt is the amount of money the federal government borrows in order to cover the immense balance of expenses suffered over time. The national debt gradually increases due to the federal budget deficits, the government borrowing from Social Security funds, the Treasury lending money to other countries, having low interest rates that promote increased investment, and raised debt ceilings.
How did the national debt become so high? During the American Revolutionary War, the national debt was just over $75 million. Then, throughout the Civil War, it grew almost 4,000%, ending in $2.7 billion by the end of the war. It grew to roughly $22 billion after World War I, and in the 2000s, it spiked to $5.6 trillion. Since 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic, the debt has increased by over $10 trillion, and now the United States is in over $31 trillion of debt.
When it comes to the national debt, Republicans are highly distasteful toward the national debt, and their viewpoints include low government interference, economic freedom, and reduced government spending.
Of the two main parties, Democrats generally think the national debt is less of a problem than Republicans. Democrats are more open in support of government spending for public issues. One of the leading causes of increased national debt is government spending.
One of the main factors to why the national debt is so high is because of government borrowing. When federal expenditures exceed revenues, the government is basically required to borrow the money it needs for its budget, increasing the national debt immensely. If government borrowings continues to increase, it can reduce the financial capitals available to private sector firms, as well as lead to trade imbalances and financial crises. Another reason to why the national debt is high is because of other countries being hesitant to lend us money. If foreign countries become hesitant to lend money, it could lead them to lose relationships with the U.S., and because of this, it will become more difficult to be able to improve the national debt overall. The final reason to why national debt is so high is because it simply won't stop growing. As the federal government increases recurring deficits, the national debt continues to grow, and the higher the national debt becomes, the more the U.S. is being seen as a global risk. This could impact the U.S.'s ability to borrow money in times of global pressure, which can put the U.S. at a risk for not being able to meet the obligations to their allies. In all, the national debt is a huge problem because of the government borrowings, growing national debt, foreign countries being hesitant, and many other factors. These things lead the national debt to become very expensive, and the higher it grows, the harder it is to be able to decrease it enough to where it could be stable.
Trust isn't lost. During the pandemic, America was able to borrow over $5 trillion despite being in over $20 trillion of debt. It proves that countries are still willing to lend us money even when we're in such high debt. The markets are free. Very few countries are borrowing currently, allowing the U.S. government to borrow more. Without any other countries to crowd out the space, there's no reason for countries to not lend to us. Interest is low. The global interest rate is very low, and low global interest allows countries to hold more debt. Because it's so low, we should be fine to borrow more. It may not be a good idea, it is still stable.